Hi little Mead, welcome back to Story Time. We are reading The Twits by Roald Dahl. We've had 2 sessions reading this book so far, and we have met Mr. and Mrs. Twit. There they are on the front cover. We've learned that they're both pretty nasty and very nasty to each other. They like playing tricks on each other, horrible tricks. Now, this chapter is called The House, the Tree and the Monkey Cage. I'm going to show you a picture of the Twits' house and garden to have a good look. Their house. And can you see the tree? Yep. Okay, let's find out. We can't go on forever watching these 2 disgusting people doing disgusting things to each other. We must get ahead with the story. Here is a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Twit's house and garden. Oh, some house. It looks like a prison. Not a window anywhere. Remember, it's the house. Who wants windows? Mr. Twit had said when they were building it. Who wants every Tom, Dick and Harry peeping in to see what you're doing? It didn't occur to Mr. Twit that windows were meant mainly for looking out of, not for looking into. And what do you think of their ghastly garden? Now, Mrs. Twit was the gardener. She was very good at growing thistles and stinging nettles.
I always grow plenty of spiky thistles and plenty of stinging nettles, she used to say. They keep out nasty, nosy little children.
And near the house you can see Mr. Twit's work shed. Now, to one side there is the big dead tree. It never has any leaves on it because it's dead. And then not far from the tree you can see the monkey cage. There are 4 monkeys in it. They belong to Mr. Twit. You'll hear about them later. Next chapter. Hug tight, sticky glue. Once a week on Wednesdays, the Twits had bird pie for supper. Mr. Twit caught the birds and Mrs. Twit cooked them. Mr. Twit was good at catching birds. On the day before Bird Pie Day, he would put the ladder up against the big dead tree, climb into the branches with a bucket of glue and a paintbrush. The glue he used was something called Hug Tight, and it was stickier than any other glue in the world. He would paint it along the tops of all the branches and then go away. There he is, putting the glue on the branches. As the sun went down, the birds would fly in from all around to roost for the night in the big dead tree. They didn't know, poor things, that the branches were all smeared with horrible Hug-Tight. The moment they landed on the branch, their feet stuck, and that was that. The next morning, which was Bird Pie Day, Mr. Twit would climb up the ladder again and grab all the wretched birds that were stuck to the tree. It didn't matter what kind they were. Song thrushes, blackbirds, sparrows, crows, little wrens, robins, anything. They all went into the pot for Wednesday's bird pie supper. There's the poor birds who came to roost. They came to sleep for the night and ended up bird pie. Next chapter. 4 little sticky boys. Got some boys watching? On one Tuesday evening, after Mr. Twit had been up the ladder and smeared the tree with Hug-Tight, 4 little boys crept into the garden to look at the monkeys. They didn't care about thistles and stinging nettles, not when there were monkeys to look at. After a while, they got tired of looking at the monkeys, so they explored further into the garden and found the ladder leaning against the big dead tree. they decided to climb up it, just for fun. Nothing wrong with that. The next morning, when Mr. Twit went out to collect the birds, he found 4 miserable little boys sitting in the tree, stuck as tight as could be by the seats of their pants to the branches. There were no birds because the presence of the boys had scared them away. Mr. Twit was furious. "As there's no birds for my pie tonight," he shouted, "it'll have to be boys instead." He started to climb the ladder. "Boy pie might be better than bird pie," he went on. "More meat and not so many tiny little bones." The boys were terrified. "He's going to boil us," cried one of them. "He'll stew us alive," wailed the second one. "He'll cook us with carrots," cried the third. Here's a picture. There's the boys who are stuck in the tree. And there's Mr. Twit climbing up to get them. Gonna put them in his pie. But the 4th little boy, who had more sense than the others, whispered, "Listen, I've just had an idea. We are only stuck by the seat of our trousers. So quick, unbutton your trousers, slip out of them, fall to the ground." Mr. Twit had reached the top of the ladder and was just about to make a grab for the nearest boy when they all suddenly tumbled out of the tree and ran for home with their naked bottoms winking at the sun. Pants and trousers left on the tree. And the boys running off. Oh dear. Next chapter. The Great Upside Down Monkey Circus. Those are the monkeys that are in the cage in the garden. Now for the monkeys. The 4 monkeys in the cage in the garden were all one family. They were the Mugglewump and his wife and their 2 small children. But what on earth were Mr. and Mrs. Twit doing with monkeys in their garden? Well, you see, in the old days, they had both worked in a circus as monkey trainers. They used to teach monkeys to do tricks and to dress up in human clothes and smoke pipes and all that nonsense. Today, although they were retired, Mr. Twit still wanted to train monkeys. It was his dream that one day he would own the first great upside-down monkey circus in the world. That meant that the poor monkeys had to do everything upside down. They had to dance upside down, on their hands with their feet up in the air. They had to play football upside down. They had to balance one on top of the other, upside down, with Mugglewump at the bottom and the smallest baby monkey at the very top. They even had to eat and drink upside down, and that is not an easy thing to do because the food and water go up your throat instead of down it. In fact, it's almost impossible, but the monkeys simply had to do it, otherwise they got nothing. Now all this sounds pretty silly to you and me. Sounded pretty silly to the monkeys too. They absolutely hated having to do this upside down nonsense every day. It made them giddy standing on their heads for hours on end. Sometimes the 2 small monkey children would faint with so much blood going to their heads. Mr. Twit didn't care about that. He kept them practicing for 6 hours every day. And if they didn't do as they were told, Mrs. Twit would come running with her beastly stick. Next chapter. The roly-poly bird to the rescue. So there's the monkey family, the Mugglewump family. It's the last chapter for today. Mugglewump and his family longed to escape from the cage in Mr. Twit's garden and go back to the African jungle from where they came. They hated Mr. and Mrs. Twit for making their lives so miserable. They also hated them for what they did to the poor birds every Tuesday and Wednesday. "Fly away, birds," they used to shout, jumping about in the cages and waving their arms. "Don't sit on that big dead tree. It's been smeared all over with glue. Oh, go and sit somewhere else." But these were English birds. They couldn't understand the weird African language the monkeys spoke, so they took no notice. They went on sitting on the big dead tree and getting caught for Mrs. Twit's bird pie. But then one day, a truly magnificent bird flew down out of the sky and landed right on the monkey cage. "Good heavens!" cried all the monkeys together. That's the bird that's landed. Pretty amazing bird. Never seen one of those in my garden. "Good heavens!" cried all the monkeys together. "It's the roly-poly bird! What on earth are you doing over here in England, roly-poly bird?" Like the monkeys, the roly-poly bird came from Africa, and he spoke the same language as they did. "I've come for my holiday," said the roly-poly bird. "I like to travel." He fluffed his marvellous coloured feathers and looked down rather grandly at the monkeys. "For most people," he went on, "flying away on holiday is very expensive, but I can fly anywhere in the world for nothing." "Do you know how to talk to these English birds?" Muggle-Wump asked him. "Of course I do," said the roly-poly bird. "It's no good going to a country and not knowing the language." Oh, then we must hurry," said Muggle-Wump. "Today is Tuesday, and over there you can already see the revolting Mr. Twit up the ladder, painting sticky glue on all the branches of the big dead tree. This evening when the birds come in to roost, you must warn them, please, not to perch on that tree. Oh, they will be made into bird pie." That evening, the roly-poly bird flew round and round the big dead tree, singing out, "There's sticky stuff all over the tree. If you land in the branches, you'll never get free. So fly away, stay up high, or you'll finish up tomorrow in a hot bird pie." That's the end for today for Little Mead's story time. I really hope you can join me tomorrow. Tomorrow's next chapter is no bird pie for Mr. Twit. So tomorrow we'll carry on reading The Twits by Roald Dahl. Nice to see you all. Hope to see you soon. Bye.